Coming up next on BBC Two, it's the Brad Woto stream, but first, it's time for What Picture Has Bradley Drawn Onto a Piece of Paper?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another fantastic edition of What Did Braid Draw? Oh, what? Oh, it crashed. Cool. In the silence. Let's see if you can guess what I drawed. It was a 2-minute drawing. Knowledge.
A dud!
No. Knowledge. Bulbasaur. A butterfly. Metapod. Pikamaru smoking a shisha. Yoda eating fish and a rice cake. Optimus Prime. All right. 7 people in the chat room. You must be feeling as tired as I am. Pushed it a little bit on Table Story last night. Did a bit of a longer stream. How long was that stream? Three hours and 12 minutes. And that's not including the 2 hours of pre-show prep that I had to do for that one. That I have to undo next week. Metapod or Bulbasaur? Nope. Jigglypuff. You fool. Oh, I'm tired today, guys. Used all of my energy last night trying to run an episode of Table Story. I had to take a lot of pills yesterday to get me through it as well, so I feel very fucked up today. One day it'll be Bulba. Yeah, I'd like to draw Bulbasaur. It's a bit more difficult to draw though. Wait, didn't I draw a Bulbasaur? No, I drew a Squirtle. Didn't I draw a Bulbasaur? I don't think I did. The fairy, whatever the fuck that Digimon was, Agumon, Amumu, Braum, not the Weasel from Critical Role. I don't think I did. That was my first time joining a Table Story reading. It was fun to watch. Oh, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, if you enjoyed that, you can actually start the series. Since that took place before the whole series. Now, it is a flashback that I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting the show with, but you could. since it takes place in the time before our show officially begins. A little under a year before the actual official beginning. I'll try not to spoil too much about it. But it was good to jump back in and finally get back on Table Story and run something, you know. My Deloney, thank you for the 65 a monther. Yeah, it was hard, man. He's destroyed himself. He has destroyed himself. I'm back, y'all. I'm back. Welcome back. Where have you been? Yeah, Table Story, a D&D show that I run called Cura last night. A lot happened in what is essentially like a dumb little flashback episode. But it was fun. It was very fun. I put a lot of effort into that one, surprisingly. Considering you'd think it was just a little borderline non-canon flashback. I wanted there to be a real point to it, and there was. Knowledge was revealed. Lore.
Knowledge.
Next week will be another lore-heavy episode for all of the lore people, like Piranha Plant. Piranha wrote a very long... what do you call it? Review? Or critical evaluation. I don't know what you would call it. He gets in there, he gets in and looks at everything that happened in the episode. He loves it. Absolutely loves it. Tom Toasted, what's up, my friend? Jesus, that's a lot of writing. Trigger warning, love you, Brad. I know you can endure whatever you're facing now and come out stronger than ever before. You unknowingly helped me go through some of really rough times. Only wish I could be of help and support you in some other way other than throwing a few coins your way. Finally got my degree last Monday night, and it's mainly because of Table Story. Won't make it longer. Nice, man. That's cool. Congrats and well done. Yeah, no, don't worry about anything like that. I have been watching Critical Role over the last couple of weeks because I've just not been feeling very well. Lots of things wrong with me. I mean, really, I'm just in withdrawal from some antidepressants I was on, and it is just... It's freaking me out how long it's taking me to get better. It's freaking me out. I'm like, am I going to be like this forever? Am I ever going to be better again? It's a horrible feeling, but I still don't feel good at all. I'm so weak and frail at the moment. Like everything that I do, I can only do in smaller amounts than I'm used to. For example, if I go on a walk, I can only walk half the distance I would normally be able to walk. If I stream, I can only stream for half the time that I won't normally be able to stream. Table Story last night wiped me out completely. I'm absolutely exhausted today. I can barely think straight. Got people messaging me like, hey, do you want to do this? You want to do this? You want to do this? And I'm like, I can't. I don't want to exist today. You know when you just can't exist? And you're just like, I can't answer any of your questions or do anything, please. My mum's messaging me and shit, you know, and I'm just like, oh, I can't do it. I just want to like non-exist a little bit. It's a really weird feeling. But Critical Role has been a thing that I've watched so much of. I'm on episode, let's find out. I have burned through so much of this. Look at this. This is the playlist of it. I'm all the way through all this. This has been in 3 weeks, I think, or a month or so. that I've been watching this. I'm on right at the end of episode 47 of campaign 2. Never really watched Crit Role before, not properly, and I mean I am enjoying it, yeah. But my point to Tom and Toasted is that I haven't paid them a fucking penny, and they have manually gotten me through this. They've literally, like, the cast of Critical Role and that campaign, and just watching the hours, you know, they do 3-ish hour sessions. I've had it on while I've been doing so much sitting around and feeling shitty. That's what it's about, man. You got to find stuff that just you chuck on in the background, whether it's Table Story or this crap stream or whatever. So yeah, man, don't feel like, you know, you don't owe anyone anything. You figure it out. You pulled your socks up. You got on with stuff, and you got through it, you know. And you've got a degree, and you figured your shit out, and that's cool, man. Don't worry about it. You know, that you've used. It's nice. I appreciate the thank you and everything, you know. But you figured out tools and ways to get your shit together. That's what it is, man. So, yeah, congrats, man. Well done. You've done great. You're doing great. Everyone else: Cloudsea, Sales, Humagi, Greg, Rage. Thank you for the resubs. He's weak. He's frail. He's style. He's great. Yeah. We've been going through the same thing basically. That's why I've been in ghost mode for the past few months. Oh, really? You've been suffering withdrawals from some sort of really hardcore antidepressant. Yeah, it's really horrible. It's been just a horrible experience. I'm very, very tired of it. I'm beginning to just, I keep feeling just like every other day I feel better, and then I feel worse, and I feel better, and then I feel worse, and I feel better, and then I feel worse, and I'm just like, God, I want it to be over. And I am getting better. I don't feel as bad as I felt last week, but it is just not, it's not like I feel better, healed. You know, I'm not at 100%. It's just weird. You go up this fucking like mountain, and it's just like getting worse, getting worse, getting worse. It spent sort of 2 weeks getting worse, getting worse. Physical symptoms first, then mental symptoms, and then it hit like a peak of just absolutely awful, which I think was around this time last week. It's very, do you know what's the weirdest thing is? I just can't, I've got no sense of time of how long this is, because it has just felt like, it feels like it's been months and months. It's been weeks. Each week feels like a month. I feel if you said to me, oh Brad, it hasn't been 3 weeks, it's been 3 months, I'd fully believe you. It feels more like months to me, because every second has just been so grueling. But like, obviously you're going out, it's getting worse, and the symptoms are getting worse and getting worse, and it hit like a peak of feeling worse. And a lot of the time when you're sick, once you hit that peak and start coming down, you come down and feel better pretty quickly. If you have a cold or something, you feel, oh, and then it goes, and then in a couple of days it's gone, and you've forgotten that you were even sick. This is coming down at the same rate. So I feel, yeah, it was worse here maybe this time last week at the top of this peak, but here was also fucking horrible. And I'm just on the same, I have the same symptoms as I had here on the come down side. Well, yes, this is me feeling better, but I'm still here. You know, I've still got all of this to go before I feel brand new again, or feel 100% again. Not that I really ever feel 100%. I always feel a bit unwell, or I've got something going wrong in my head, and I'm trying really hard not to constantly be complaining about things all the time, but it does feel like I do complain a lot about stuff. But honestly, I've had a shit few years, so go fuck yourself. I'm fucking knackered. I'm so exhausted from my own life. And this has just been so horrible this last couple of weeks. And it's really just highlighting it. When I feel like I was doing pretty good, you know, for the first time, but since I moved into this apartment, like the stress of the first part of this year going into the first month of living in this apartment, I actually felt okay for a month. I felt kind of like I wasn't too stressed, I wasn't too anxious, I wasn't unwell or anything like that. And I actually was kind of pretty stable, and it was so nice. And I was like, oh, I feel okay. And I was doing stuff, I was productive, I was working on like fucking 15 projects. And then I just got fucking slapped. Tired, man. I'm so fucking tired. But I am getting better and feeling better, and I really am trying not to be too like down in the dumps about it all, you know, because you just beating yourself up doesn't really do a lot. It's hard not to do sometimes, right? But when you beat yourself up about these things and you just kind of get in your own head about, oh, my life sucks, or, you know, I haven't had a great couple years objectively, but there have been a lot of times in there that have been quite fun and, you know, normal and fine. But if you just sit and all you do is ruminate on those milestones that are negative, you will never feel better. Never. So you have to really manually engage a part of your brain to just be like, no. Just no. Just focus on positive elements. Focus on the fact that, you know, you are feeling better than you were feeling last week. And that's all I've been doing. But it is annoying because I'm very tired, and like I said, I can't do stuff to the level that I want to be able to. I can't stream for as long as I want to. I can't work on it, you know, as much. I've got loads of things for Table Story that I want to work on. I've got loads of things that I want to put time towards and creative effort towards, but I just don't have the energy and the spoons for it, I guess. God, it sucks. It sucks so bad. So if you've been going through it, my Deloney, yeah. Critical Role has saved me, as well as a couple of like Steam Deck games. Teamfight Tactics got me through the first 2 weeks, but then I just got bored of it and I was sick of playing it. And Marvel Snap. And then I started dreaming about Marvel Snap, and I was like, I don't want to play it anymore because I didn't like that dream. So I stopped playing it. And then I installed Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors and Death Must Die have done a lot of the heavy lifting for me for most of this time. That and Critical Role. Whew. Without those things, this would have been really annoying, I think. Because there's not really a lot on TV that I'm interested in. Like, there's stuff that's coming out at the moment, like House of the Dragon and The Boys and The Acolyte, but you get one of those a week, you know, and I've been sitting here 24 hours a day just completely out of it. So, yeah, Crit Roll has been incredible for me. They've saved me. I feel the same way about them as you do about me, Tom Toasted, and Table Story and shit. The Sad Dad window movie moments with orange juice hopefully makes it less painful and breathing in the park. I don't even know what any of that means. Oh, I haven't had any orange juice. The Sad Dad window moment. Oh, me just sitting in my window. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get up in the morning and I just open that. It's still open from this morning, from when I sat in it this morning, and just stare out the window. I'm really tired today. I mean, I'm extra tired because any time I have to run a D&D campaign, I mean, Tuesdays is when I run a Cura, and Wednesdays I'm always brain dead. And not only that, but we went long. It was annoying. There was an annoying timing thing with last night's episode in that the thing was designed to be a one-shot, but it took a little bit of time to get into it, and they took a little bit more time sort of moving from room to room. I kind of thought they would spam through it because they do get a bit impatient, this party. They progress through dungeons very quickly, but then they progress maneuvering through the world quite slowly. It's very strange. I find that's usually the other way around, because I'm usually trying to like make travel quickly, traveler quick thing in campaigns. It's not entirely on them, but they took the time with it. So it got to a point where I was like, oh, I could make this 2 episodes. But that means I need to sort of extend this maze somehow next week, but I don't know how to do that without just putting more combat encounters in. They actually really didn't bump into much combat stuff. They went the other way, but yeah, it was an awkward time. I can't remember what time it was, but I was like, I don't think I can extend it. So it was like the only choice you have in that moment is to be like, push through. Just try and push through and get through this as quickly as possible. But I also knew that the ending, you know, we were already kind of slightly over time and they hadn't actually gotten to the end of the maze. But I knew the ending was going to be, the ending had to be significant. I couldn't rush them through the ending. So I was a bit like, oh no, this one's probably going to run a bit late, which I was worried about myself, but I was also worried about Aaron because Aaron was unwell as well. It's funny because, you know, I planned this while feeling okay. The last episode of Cura that I ran, I was feeling kind of woozy, but not too bad, because I was coming off of the meds. But the last episode that I ran was the last time I took these pills. The night of the last episode of Cura that I did 3-4 weeks ago, whenever it was the first night I didn't take any mirtazapine. So the next night my brain went nuts, and since then I've been just completely going through it. So, you know, the week after I was like really stressing about it because I had prepped Aaron, and Aaron was putting together all of his outfit and all of his things, and you know, I'd obviously, when you have a guest, I'm like, are you available at this time on this date, you know, and that kind of thing. And then I was like, I'm really unwell, I don't think I can do it, will you be available next week? So he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then the next week rolls around and I'm like, I just don't think I can do it. I think if I try and do something like, I mean, running Cura and running any table story campaign is the most mentally taxing thing you'll do in your week. And I think it would definitely have killed me last week to do. And so I messaged Aaron and was like, I don't think I can handle it. I'm so sorry. Are you around next week? And he was like, I'm unwell as well. Thank you. He was just sitting there feeling horrendous. He's been like fluey. And he also was very sick last week. So it would have been really awful for him to do. So when we put it through to this week, and he's still not feeling 100%, but yeah, he absolutely fucking killed it. Again, I won't spoil too much about Aaron's character. Annoyingly, I absolutely obliterated and ruined his intro because I have everything written in a Google Doc for this, and it just crashed. I like scrolled down and the page went blank. And for that entire portion, the beginning of the maze last night, I had no reference. I didn't have any notes. So I was like looking at my stuff and like trying to get it to work. I don't know if you can see me frantically clicking and like refreshing pages and stuff, but like Chrome just killed itself. And I can't switch to, the only other thing that I'm logged in on everything on is Firefox, which is what I use, which is what is being captured. So the Roll20 and stuff that you see on the stream is all logged in over here, and I'm using one that's on Chrome over here and stuff. I have all these windows open. So I was just trying to remember everything that I'd fucking written 3 weeks ago. You know, like if I had come up with this week, or if I had come up with it on the day or something, I'd remember it really easily. But the only room in the entire maze that I didn't create was the one that Aaron was in. He did. So I like read what he wrote 3 weeks ago and knew that when it came to coming to that room, I would just say what he had written verbatim. He had scripted me for that part. So I didn't commit it to memory, and also I hadn't created it, so it hadn't already, you know, when you create something, it's kind of already in your head. It's one of the reasons I like running my own settings rather than modules, is because if I invented it, it's sort of already, it's like preloaded in my head in a way. Whereas if I run a module or something, I have to reference something a lot, or I have to kind of revise and study it before, you know, it's run. So the one fucking moment that I need a fucking bit of verbatim writing, I didn't have it. And I had to just go with what he told me, and I couldn't remember because my brain isn't working. It's really annoying. So I just kind of absolutely ruined his whole intro. Messaged him and was like, I'm so sorry, I fucking butchered that. And then it all got working again. And then like I sort of went in somewhat a little bit further into the episode. I kind of retconned his intro and like gave everybody, because he wrote a really nice thing and I just couldn't remember anything about what it was. God, it's so annoying when stuff like that happens. I also kind of accidentally slightly spoiled him being in it because I had him on the screen. A little image of his character on the screen that I wasn't meant to put, that wasn't meant to come up until he arrived, but I forgot that it was there because I was worried about the names and stuff. Yeah, I was a bit while I'm happy with the episode and I'm happy with how it came out overall, there's a few things in it that wouldn't have happened had I been functioning at 100%, because I just wasn't feeling very well. I was feeling fine enough, but not great. Still, the episode came out. I mean, in terms of the overall campaign, I'm happy with it, because I knew there would be a potential moment, and there was at the end, of very canonical lore presenting stuff, which is a little bit difficult to do as well when you're improving very important lore moments from your campaign. But Aaron smashed it. He's so great at everything. He's such a wonderful human being. I was sort of gushing about him to Liam the other day. Me and Liam were talking about my friends. You know, like for Liam, me and Liam have been friends since school, and we will always be friends. We just sort of, me and Liam and there's a third one of us called Andrew out there somewhere. We sort of we formed a very close bond in school, and you know, there have been years where I haven't really spent time with them, but we hang out and still, you know, we get on as if we haven't, you know, as if I saw him yesterday or whatever. But for Liam, I kind of have this, from Liam's perspective, I have this group of people online that I'm very close with, who he doesn't really know very well. And he's sort of met, you know, Leah and Maya, and he's met Mergs and Dave. And but because Liam doesn't really play like Wild RP, he doesn't have much interest in D&D and stuff. There's no real reason for me to bring him in to something like Oracle's Rest or whatever. But every now and then he will interact, or he will watch, or he will see something with this group of people that I've become friends with on the internet. And I think from his perspective, it's like crazy, because we have curated a friendship group of really interesting people and really good people as well. I think that's another very key point, is that the people that are in this friendship group that, you know, we've formed, that are predominantly kind of, you know, you would know all of the people, but, you know, the people that are in around Table Story and stuff like that, my friends online, who aren't just like acquaintances. I've got lots of streamers and lots of YouTubers and stuff who are people that I regard really highly, and I really like them, and I think that they're good people, but I maybe haven't spent a huge amount of time with, who potentially could become very good friends of mine or something. But, you know, they're more like kind of I'm friendly with. But then there are people that I've met in this industry and through, you know, friends of friends and stuff like that, who have become very close friends of mine, who are just like solid people in one way or another. But they're all very interesting as well. They're all very creative, or they're funny, or you know, they have unique talent or something. You know, there's some element to them that makes them very interesting. And every single one of them is the type of... I could be alone with any one of these people that I've become friends with. You could trap me in a house with them for a week, and I don't think we'd ever run out of things to talk about. We'd never get annoyed with each other's company. I don't think we'd ever get bored. You know, sometimes you can be sat with someone who you get on with for a long time, and you can run out of stuff to talk about, and it's awkward and stuff. And I think that even if we ran out of things to talk about, that I could just probably walk along in silence with any one of these people, and it'd be very comfortable. And of those people, I think Aaron is a very standout member of that group. He is very unique. He's had a really interesting life. Not all of it has obviously been sort of sunshine and rainbows and things. He's done a lot of things and he's had a very varied and interesting life, but he's come out of it as a very multifaceted and layered individual who's just very, very easy to talk to about anything. It's one of the things I love about Aaron the most, is that you can sit down and talk to him about anything. You can talk to him about the most deepest emotion. You can open a conversation about the most deep, emotional, fucking harrowing moment of your life, and he will be able to... He won't just sit there and nod and listen, even though obviously he will listen. He will have things to say about it, you know, and he will drop pearls of wisdom, or he will be a shoulder to cry on, or something like that. Or you could just sit and make dick jokes with him for an hour, you know. He's a very reliable person, I think. I find him to be very much he's very much a comfort person for me. And it's not like me and Aaron are best friends or anything like that. I do think we're relatively close, but he is somebody that just being around him and being in his presence, I find him to be a very calming, warm, and very approachable and easy person to be around. I was kind of explaining this to Liam the other day because we were talking about it, and I was saying that Liam would probably get on very well with Aaron, because of that. You can spend time with Aaron very easily, and yeah, he is a very positive person. I think he has a lot of reason. You know, there's many things that have happened in Aaron's life that would completely break another person. He's very strong. He probably doesn't really think it. Maybe he does. But he's a very inspirational person. That being said, on top of all of these things, he can just come into a show like Cura at complete random and play this ridiculous character. I found his character was fucking adorable and so lovable and really interesting. And I feel like he stole the show, which of course I wanted him to do. And we approached it in a really interesting way, in that I gave him a lot of my DM notes for how I was going to approach this maze. Again, if you haven't seen Cura, I won't say anything that's too spoilery, but we'll talk about, you know, some of the structural things. I shared with him a document that just had a bunch of notes in it, and I said, like, as we come to each room, you can describe what's in it, and you can talk to them about the things that are in the room, and you can I'll lay a basic setting of what the room is, and if you want to, you can just crack on and describe all of the different things that are in there, the busts of the wizards, or the reason as to why this room exists, or you know, who planted these plants, who built these automatons and stuff like that. You know, and as much or as little as you want. I don't want to put too much pressure on you. You don't need to DM the show or anything, but I thought it might be a fun way to have this character who comes in, and I describe some of it as a DM, and then this actual character who's a custodian and a guide describes the rest. So that was kind of how we did that. And you have to be able to rely on someone quite heavily to, you know, be able to do something like that, and Aaron's really good for that. Yeah, I love him. I absolutely love him so much. Aaron, I would take a bullet for that man. Very, very happily. To the brain, ideally. Yeah, he's great. Killed it. And yeah, if you've never seen Kuro or anything like that, last night's episode 23. Is it 23? I think it is. The Wheel is the episode that features Aaron Black, and he's in it. And it's a flashback. You could, if you wanted, watch. There are 3 session zeros available on Fourth Wall for the memberships, which are official campaign, canonical, but test shows that we did, where I recorded our process. Everyone made their characters separately, and then we ran them through some very basic one-shot pre-show episodes. And this is an addition to one of those in a way. You could watch session 0.1, then this, episode 23, then 0.2, then 0.3, and then episode 1, and go from there if you wanted. I wouldn't really recommend it, because I think that this has a lot of... like, this existed at this point in the campaign for a reason. I wouldn't actually ever start the campaign with this knowledge bomb at the end.
And it was another great day of saving the bees.
Long bun. But you could. Might be a fun way to approach the game, because you get that kind of information bomb at the end, and then you take that with you as you progress. Yeah, I think the game, next week's episode will be a bit more of fleshing out some of that knowledge, and some of what's going on with the greater story, and what's going on with the world. And then we go into, I think the show will probably transform a little bit after that. We'll go into what I will call the end game, but that sort of suggests there's only a few episodes left, which I would imagine there's still quite a few. But it is certainly a new act with a lot more information. I've been waiting for a long time to get to this point, and I kind of wanted to get to it a bit earlier, but here we are. D&D, baby. I love it when me talks. It's proof. It's so funny every time me talks, and there's just like proof that he's not a bot. Back to the Kex for another year. I've been rewatching Dark. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Dark is one of the best shows ever written. It's a shame that other show they put out wasn't quite as impactful. I installed Skyrim on my Steam Deck. Oh, I thought you were streaming it. I saw you boot it up last night very late, and I assumed that your stream had gone live. Do you think these withdrawal symptoms are worse than when you quit drugs? I think they're the same, but when I quit drugs before, I was 23. And you're like Wolverine at 23, aren't you? Yeah, I think it's very similar. It feels pretty similar. I think when I was 23, because this was a constant, every night I took this drug in my body thing, and when I was in my early 20s and late teens, I was taking a lot of drugs, but inconsistently, like consistently in the term, in the sense that I was taking a lot of drugs every day. But it wasn't like I was completely, like, it wasn't like I was taking a steady stream of the same thing every night. So this, I think, is slightly less intense and lasting a little longer. But I remember coming off of the other drugs and having more of that, you know, in like Hollywood movies, where someone's coming off of heroin and they chain them to a bed and they go fucking crazy and they're like sweating and they've got fever and they like hallucinate and shit. I remember it being more like that when I was in my early 20s. I think it was a lot more intense, and just a lot of just, yeah, like that train spotting scene where it's just fucking like it's fucking horrible. And I had to do the whole thing while pretending I was fine, just sitting there. You know, my mum was like, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And I'll be like, just. But also, I think when you're 23, you can. I don't know. I'm just a lot more sensitive to stuff now. You know, like the weather changes, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't sleep very well." So I think I bounced back from it a bit better. Yeah, there's also that, Oliver. Samael, thank you for the 67. Nanak, my boy. I don't think I thanked you for the previous sub. Yeah, so today I was just thinking I might do like a little short stream, and then go and just kind of try and chill out a little bit, because I don't want to overdo it. I mean, I did overdo it last night. Tomorrow, I'm playing Elder Scrolls Online. What? As a sponsor. Which I think I've only ever played once before for a previous sponsor. I was like, you know what? Yeah, okay. I'll play the Elder Scrolls Online. What if I like it? What if I get into it? Now is the time. The perfect time to get into it. Yeah, they've got a new thing coming out this week. Golden Road or something like that. Yeah, I've got 7.4 hours in this game. So yeah, I figured, you know, I'll boot it up tomorrow. I'll probably just start fresh. And we'll crack on with it. They did send me a thing, actually. I wonder if it's special and magical. Oh, it is. I've got the online deluxe collection. Yes. So I've just unlocked a bunch of shit with the code they sent me. So we'll give that a burn tomorrow for a few hours. Which I'm interested in doing. Maya sort of convinced me that the Elder Scrolls can be played solo, because he doesn't want to play it with me. And Orcish will be really annoyed that I'm not playing WoW. Megawatts, thanks for the 42 monther. 42 monther. Me and Liam have been looking into crafting. I've been watching this guy.
Hey guys, welcome back to Black Magic Craft. As a big, huge milestone for this channel fast approaches, I know, crazy, right? I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of introspection about this channel and this hobby, and I've been thinking about what it must be like for a lot of these new viewers to come into the channel and maybe into this hobby now. What is that first impression of the hobby like for them versus those that have seen this channel and my skills in this hobby grow slowly over time? If you are unfamiliar with this hobby and you were to tune into this channel right now today for the first time and watch a video like my Hag's Hut build, or maybe painting a miniature like the Shipwreck Revenant,
that's mental.
I would say it could appear as a very intimidating thing. Doing something like that yourself could seem like a monumental task, and understandably so. It's really easy to look at me making something like that, or to look at projects built by various veteran crafters in groups online like the Tabletop Crafters Guild, and think that we are experts in our field doing something that you could never ever do. But That thought process is wrong. It's really, really flawed. Don't think like that.
I don't think like that. I think I can do everything that you do.
Outwardly played. I create my own site.
I can do everything you can do.
A group of players, and I set to work preparing for my first game. I created a storyline, my own world, my own setting, all this stuff. And
oh, he's just telling me how to do it. I thought this video was him explaining how to craft some shit.
I built this house using less than $1 worth of material.
Lie.
And without using a hot wire table. You can do the same.
$1 house.
Hey guys, welcome back to Black Magic Craft. If I had $1 for every time I read a comment along the lines of, I can't build this cool stuff because I don't have a hot wire table and I don't want to buy one, or I can't afford one.
I don't even know what a hot wire is, but
I'd have a lot of dollars and I probably wouldn't need Patreon. It's a comment I see far too often, and it's one that I would like to see stop. You've seen a lot of these buildings in the backgrounds of my videos for the past couple of years, and the truth is, a lot of them I made before I even owned a Proxon. I just used a knife and some foam core. While a hot wire table absolutely makes a lot of things faster and easier, and there are a few things it can do that you can't do with a knife, you can still build a ton of cool stuff without it. You can build stuff like this. It just takes a little bit of creativity and patience. Today, I want to show you how I made this really nice looking little Tudor farmhouse using simple tools, dollar store foam core, and probably
the foam
under
stuff
$1
I don't understand either.
I
looked into
It's hard to even quantify how much it actually cost because it just used a little bit of stuff that was really
immediately
cheap.
Overwhelmed.
So you guys ready? Let's do this. The majority of this build is made from dollar store foam core. This is specifically the Ready Board brand from Dollar Tree, which has that easy to peel paper. As usual, when doing a building, I didn't have much of a plan or a template to follow. I just started cutting walls. While I don't follow any hard scale rules when it comes to buildings, a good starting point to keep in mind is that a wall height that looks pretty appropriate for 28mm scale minis is somewhere between 2.5 to 3 inches per floor, depending on the type of building. I peeled the paper off the foam core for two reasons. One, the glue bond is weak on this paper by design, and I didn't want to build on an unstable material. And two, I wanted to create the stucco or wattle and daub texture right onto the foam core itself. The issue with this is that it makes the foam core pretty weak and bendable, so I decided to make backing pieces using regular old cardboard. Cardboard is far from my first choice as a crafting material, and it is better to, say, use thick XPS foam, but the whole point here is to show that you don't have to. You can absolutely use something like cardboard for this, and cardboard is something that everybody should have access to. Once the foam core was hot glued to the cardboard backing, I moved on to creating the stucco texture using a ball of aluminum foil.
Oh, that's
this
what
is
he's
an
doing.
excellent method for creating the texture that is fast, easy, and free. No grout, no material to buy. It does come with one problem that will have to be addressed later, however. After texturing, it was just a simple matter of hot gluing all the walls together. This created a bit of a flimsy structure, so I cut a piece of cardboard to perfectly fit inside that would act as a brace and make the whole thing way stronger. There are two ways to make simple buildings look a lot more impressive and interesting. One is by adding lots of little details later on in the build, but the other is to create slightly unusual shapes and forms in the structure. This is how you avoid that kind of birdhouse or shoebox building look. For this one, I thought it might be neat if the building had a bump out to add a little breakup in the form. I imagined that this was a wood addition to the main structure, so before assembling it, I created some wood grain on the foam using a wire brush and some plank lines using a sharp pencil. Again, I added some cardboard bracing to the interior of the piece just to add some strength. Before adding all the exposed timber to the
What's
structure,
that?
I needed to get my door in place. And for this particular build exercise, I decided not to use one of the pre-made resin doors that I had made previously and instead just used foam core. I did cheat a little bit in terms of tools here as I used a special jig to get the shape, but in reality this just saved me some time during filming and you absolutely don't need it. In the past I've done the same thing using lids from paint or glue to create the circle part of rounded doors. Using the simple wire brush wood grain and pencil line technique, I made this foam door look like wood. For the hinges and door handle, I used construction paper. This is a great material that can be had for free or cheap. To make the hinges, I just cut narrow strips and then using a punch or a small nail, poke little dents into the paper. If you have a soft surface like a cutting mat underneath, this will create little bumps on the other side that will do a pretty decent job of representing metal rivets. For the door handle, I just cut 2 small layers of paper. I had to switch to green paper for this because seeing what I was doing with black paper on a black mat was pretty much impossible. It only takes a little bit of PVA or tacky glue to add these paper pieces to the foam door. In the past, I've also used a glue stick, just the kind you'd give a kid for school, to great effect.
Cool.
This is where I run into the first problem using the foam core with no hot wire. I really didn't want the door to be this thick and protrude that much, so I had to carefully cut it thinner using my Olfa knife. It worked out, but it was pretty tricky to do. I then needed to create a wood frame around the door, which is always tricky to do with foam. I again used my jig to get the outline, but you could of course make this jig yourself using something like cardstock, or make your life way easier and just use rectangle doors.
You don't just use the bit that you already cut the thing out of?
I wanted this building to have a brick foundation in the same style that I did my previous house. Without the hot wire, I had to go about it slightly differently. The thickness of the foam core is actually a really good size for cutting individual bricks. I cut strips, then individual bricks. No measuring here, just eyeball. Using my simple weathering technique, I tumbled the bricks to soften the edges and add some texture. One day I will switch out these rocks for bits of metal so it's less messy. The rocks I use are not the best and tend to break up and get dusty. They just were the first rocks I found in my yard when I set up this system. Using tacky glue, the bricks are easily applied to the surface of the building.
Yeah, let's just put them on one by one.
Some people are always really curious how long it actually takes me to do the things that I do. And usually my response is, it doesn't matter because everybody crafts at different speeds. How fast I build something is irrelevant because it could take you half the time, it could take you 10 times the time, it doesn't matter. In this case, I think it's interesting because I am challenging myself to do this build without any of the real specialty tools like a hot wire cutter. You know, I'm using foam core, cardboard, little X-Acto knife, glue gun, nothing special here. That limitation can slow you down. But I've made it to this point, which is the main structure, textured, some bricks, a door, a little add-on, and I am into my build time for an hour and 15 minutes.
That's pretty really good, but he's also
I'm also filming, so that adds some time. So call it an hour to get to this point. Now again, might take you a whole day, and that's fine. Using simple tools doesn't make
I don't have any crafting skills at all.
Slow.
I have basic knowledge of creation and art.
On this Tudor house here, that's where things get a little bit tricky using foam core and no hot wire. Foam core is fairly thick. It's about 3/16 of an inch thick. And if I cut it into wood strips and apply it, these will look like they're standing really, really proud. And as I said when I did my really nice Tudor house build, I like the stucco to look fairly flush. I don't want these beams sticking out too much. It doesn't make sense. I'm not going to try to shave these all down with the blades, so I have two options. Either I just make them thick, or I try my really crazy idea. You think it's gonna work?
I'm rolling pin it. I thought this earlier on. I wondered if you could just crush it.
While the rolling pin didn't get the foam quite as thin as I would have liked, it did get it about 30% thinner, and I'll take that. Oh, and before anybody complains that they don't have a rolling pin and it's a special tool, come on. I literally bought this one at Dollarama for like $3 Canadian that I use for crafting. From this foam, I cut strips to use as timbers. I of course used the wire brush to give the plank some wood grain. Then it was just a matter of going around the building and adding the strips. I had to make sure they were wide enough to cover the exposed cardboard on the corners. I could have avoided this if I had planned a bit more and cut the cardboard short on the corners and joined the corners foam to foam instead.
I mean, it's pretty effective. He's not even being that precise.
Now it was time to move on to the
exactly
roof.
how I
For the
do
substructure,
things.
I use
I hate
some
being
chipboard.
precise.
It's great because it's really thin, but
I can
also
cut a corner,
very rigid.
I will.
If you don't want to buy a big pack of this stuff, it can be found at the back of most notepads.
You know what else I don't know how to do? Paint minis at all.
I intentionally made the roof without any overhang on the sides because I want to be able to place a bunch of these small buildings close together when setting up city streets. For the shingles, my preferred foam method was not an option, as that absolutely does require a hot wire table. No worries though, I went back to one of my early techniques of using medieval chipboard. This can be found for free on many food packages. Cereal boxes, frozen pizza boxes, granola bar boxes, whatever, you get the idea. The thinner the better. I cut this stuff into 1/2-inch strips. You can go through the effort of cutting the shingle shapes into the strips, which will make applying them easier, but I find that to be a rather annoying process and actually kind of tiring on the hands after a while, and I prefer to just cut the strips into individual shingles of varying sizes. The nice thing about this is that the cardstock is thin enough that you can just stack a few strips together and cut all the shingles very quickly.
You just put grooves in them and layered them on.
To apply these, I used hot glue. This way I could keep moving and not worry about things shifting around. If I were doing strips, I'd be able to get away with tacky glue, but with individual shingles, hot glue is an absolute all-star. You'll notice I don't have layout lines for the rows, and I shift my shingles up and down a bit to give some variation. Working this way does require a little effort to make sure overall your rows aren't going too wild, but it does look really, really good.
This makes me feel impatient. Watching him put each individual one on, it activates my impatience problem, whatever is wrong with me. It looks legit though, doesn't it? Once that's painted.
So the roof is done, and it took me about 3 hours to do, I think, give or take. So for those of you keeping score, the roof took pretty much double the time it took to do everything else. But that is the nature of doing little intricate work like this. But as you can see, one little piece of recycling out of my recycling bin, last night's pizza box, is now a roof. It cost me nothing. All I used was a pair of scissors and hot glue to do it. They got a little bit of a problem right here, a little bit of a gap. And also I kind of don't like how plain this little wood box out.
Liam, if we start doing this, we will never get girlfriends. You know that, right? This is it. You're committing to being an old divorced white man.
I think I'm just going to add a bit of wood strip embellishments to make it look better and hide that gap.
Ladies, could you marry a guy who was fucking cool, fucking sexy, you know, he's like, he looks younger than he should be, he acts fucking amazing. He's got cool shit going on. He does cool shit. But also, sometimes you go to his house and he's doing this. Who focuses on his own hobby for hours and leaves you the fuck alone. Actually, the age range of women that I am now looking at, between 18 and 22, kidding, I was going to make a Dr. Disrespect joke, between 30 and 50, I guess. That's how old I think you have to be to even qualify. The type of person that I would be interested in getting into a relationship at this point has to be the type of person who, much like me, has their own shit going on now, and just like, yeah, great, I like spending time with you, and I like, you know, let's go watch that movie, let's make dinner, let's do this, but also I'd like to go and play D&D with my other friends. I'd like to go and build a fucking bullshit house. I'd like to honestly just be non-verbal for 2 hours completely on my own. And I don't think that exists in your early, well, I guess in your 20s, does it? It just doesn't exist. It's not even a thing that I was aware of. I mean, obviously there's different people there, you know, but in general. So to be honest with you, I don't know what I'm worried about. Is that fucking wasp? It's a fly.
Let's get this build complete so that.
By the way, this is the stream. I don't know if you were expecting anything. I almost played Mass Effect, but I thought, well, since I'm doing this Elder Scrolls stream tomorrow, I'll probably just long it off for another day. I know that's annoying, and I keep doing it, and we're playing PUBG every so often and stuff, but I didn't really know what. I almost didn't stream because I was like, I have nothing to do. I was like, maybe I'll play Death Must Die or something. And then I was like, I'll just start the stream and chat for a bit and then just see where the day takes us. And now we're watching another one of these videos just because it's on my... It's just what I'm thinking about. It's just one of the things I'm thinking about. So now we're all thinking about it. I looked into buying some stuff the other day. I actually built a... I watched one of his videos actually where he just says, here's some of the shit that you might want. Just to really basic shit to get going, and it came to £96, and then the next day, so that covered that was like a few knives and some random things and some foam and some like really basic paints for building terrain, not for building like houses and painting minis. And I was like, oh, I'll wait till tomorrow because tomorrow's Prime Day and then maybe some of this stuff will be on a sale because there's 2 days of sale on Amazon Prime right now. I also bought a fan that was down from like £200 to £67. Can I afford it? No. Is there another heat wave coming this week? And I already feel really unwell and just was like, oh, fuck it. I'm going to buy another cheap fan. I've got a cheap fan right here pointing at me. It is so bad. One of the worst fans ever built. It's one of those Argos £15 fans, and I point it at myself in summer and hope that it's enough, and it's never enough, and I feel fucking horrible, and I feel really shit this week, and we've got this heat wave about to fucking decimate us in the UK for the next few days and over the weekend. And I was like, let me have a look at the Amazon deal things, and there was like a good one that I like looked up some reviews on and shit, and it was like £67, and I was like, fuck it, and I bought it. Can I afford it? No. So thank you so much for watching Twitch Plays D&D on Sundays, because I've spent some of that on a slightly less bad fan than the one that I have pointed at me directly right now to try and get me through this weekend, because I'm just dreading the heat a little bit because I already feel so so horrible, and it's very warm today already, and I was like, I woke up this morning and felt immediately like I was going to throw up, and I was like, oh, I could handle this heat if I wasn't dying already, and I was like, god damn it, this weekend's going to suck, and I'm going to end up having a couple of nights where I don't sleep, and I'm already just like scraping at every minute of sleep I can get. So I bought a fucking fan. Shut the fuck up. Let me buy things that make me feel better. So I looked at all the Amazon Prime deals. £96 is how much it cost on the 15th, and the Amazon Prime deal day on the 16th, it went up to 114. Somehow, none of the stuff that I was gonna buy for the basic crafting shit, I just wanted an idea of the price. It wasn't like I was actually gonna buy it. I just wanted to know where I was looking at for ballpark, just buying a bunch of shit, just getting some of my own stuff in and just buying, you know, some knives and shit. And it went up. I don't even know what went up in price either. Like, I couldn't tell you what on the list made it go from £96 to £114 on the deal day. None of it was in the Prime deals. Super annoying. But yeah, I was like looking at it because I thought maybe, and I know it's like, it always feels a bit scummy to do, but I thought maybe I can just figure out how much money I need for just some basic materials, maybe buying just like a few minis and some just random shit, and like a table is another thing that I would have to buy, just a little crafting table to set up here, and something else. The PO box. I don't know how much that is. And then if I could ballpark how much that was, then I might be able to crowdfund it a little bit just on here. Just put a little £250 donation bar up during one of the streams at some point. And then that way it kind of takes some of the stress off of doing this. And then I can do it and I can justify setting up a couple of webcams. Because I could do it right here, I think. Like this. It's not a huge amount of space, but we don't need it. I could just set up a table here and then plug webcams into this fucking computer, run the webcams over to here, put Liam on the other side in a little chair, and then the two of us could just sit here, and then that way I could just do that, we could just sit and chat and model make, and I'll just stream it to the second channel. And if I need to, I can turn around here and, you know, click buttons and check OBS is working and whatever. And do that, you know, and then that way I can stream it, because it feels like something that I would like to do by myself, quietly sitting here, put on the fucking Skyrim soundtrack and just paint some minis, or like maybe just build things with Critical Role on in the background or something. But also feels like something that would be very easy for me to stream to the second channel, painting minis, either by myself, talking to you guys and just chatting, and we can paint minis here and I can set up a camera, or I can get Liam to come around once or twice, you know, or whenever he wants to, and we can just make an evening of it and we can chat shit, and it'd be like a little podcast hangout. And that feels like it would be quite a nice way to do that every now and then. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well justify fundraising it or something like that. So that's what I was doing, and I was kind of expecting it to be extortionate, like the amount of money it was going to cost, but like £100 and then another 100 here and there. Me and Liam are going to go and look at some hobbycraft stores. I'm not rushing into this because I could, if I wanted to, right now just drop £1,000 and just fucking buy a load of stuff, and it becomes my hyperfixation for a week, and my ADHD is like, but I was like, no, relax, take it easy. But it feels like a fun project. And also, I was looking at 3D printers. They're about £500. Obviously, I can't just drop £500 on a 3D printer on a whim or anything like that. I could technically put it on my credit card and just slowly pay it off. Or even fundraise that. You know, we could probably justify fundraising a £500 3D printer and then doing some, like, getting some really interesting things off the internet, and then we could 3D print them and paint those. We could do minis of stuff from Table Story and shit, which would be fun, and Hero Forge and shit like that. But I was looking at that, and I thought, man, £500 is so much money. Obviously, I don't have £500 to just throw at a 3D printer for no reason, even if I threw my credit card at it just for the sake of it. But then I thought, well, I was looking at an iPad Air or whatever. There's one of them that you need for Procreate, because I sit and draw now all the time when I'm drawing stuff for the beginning of these streams. I'm sitting here a lot of the time just doodling, and I really enjoy it. I actually really have a nice time some nights just sitting here drawing, if I'm drawing something that's worth, not just a Jigglypuff that I spam out an hour before the stream, but sometimes I'll sit and draw something that's a bit more effort, like the Cloud Strifes or something. But what I would love to do is just have Procreate on an iPad and just sit and play with, just doodle while I'm watching TV, instead of just sitting on Death Must Die or Vampire Survivors or something. So I was like, okay, well, let's look at how much that costs, and it is fucking mental. To get one of the decent iPads that has the ability to really run Procreate and have more than like 2 layers, you're looking at over £1,000. I couldn't believe it. I don't know what I was expecting. Like, I have the most basic bitch iPad, just a normal, I don't know, iPad. I use it almost exclusively just to play Hearthstone, Teamfight Tactics, and Marvel Snap on. Every now and then I'll watch something on it when I'm laying in bed or something, if I want to watch something before I'm falling asleep. I have tried to read Kindle stuff on it, but I kind of prefer my phone. So I don't really use it for a lot. And it's just annoying that I can't get Procreate on it. And I was like, fuck. And I was considering, this is how much I want to play with Procreate, and how much I think I would get a lot of enjoyment and a lot of, it's very meditative, right? Like just doodling, if anyone out there doodles and draws and things. And I was like, oh man, it's so annoying, because I would get use out of it, but it's such an expensive thing. And while I was sitting there looking at some 3D printers just for the sake of looking at them, and they were like £500, I was like, well, I can never afford that. I was like, well, you're about to drop £1,000 on a fucking iPad for what is essentially the same hobby. You know, you just so you have something to do in the evenings. And I was like, well, if £500 is a lot less than £1,000 or over £1,000 for one of those iPads, I could get I could actually 3D print a thing, and then I could 3D print Tythair Veritas, and then just make a little Tybe mini for no reason that would never get used in a D&D campaign, other than that I want one. So I think there is some justifiable expenditure in here. Obviously I don't have the outright funds for it exactly, but it's also tax deductible if I stream all of this stuff. Yeah, that's true. Which is quite nice. We've been staring at this man's fucking forehead for so long. What's he doing? Oh, I bought this little thing the other day. Hey, bro. Yeah, we don't care. I know. But this was actually quite a good investment. So in this apartment, I don't have anything that can... What I ran out of was the spray can air thing, and I bought this fucking shit looking air duster vacuum cleaner 3-in-1 device. And I can hoover the front of my fucking computer with it. And I can... And I've got all these little fucking things now in this apartment that I didn't have in my old house, with just these little, God, I don't know what it's called, like side paneling things. And this thing hoovers up a little bit, but also you can just plug a thing into the back and it's now a blower. Just depending on which way this thing is facing, it just does the blowing action as well, of like keyboard cleaning. Never getting a girlfriend again. The most divorced dad I am ever. And this thing has been so fucking useful for cleaning a tiny apartment. Because I live in a tiny apartment now, not in a house. Divorced dad. Love it. Love it, dude. And it was fucking well cheap. It was like a tenner. It's the greatest item I've bought so far. For £10. I also want you to imagine that like when I first, because I got this like a week ago, and I was really unwell. And I felt so shit. I was like really feeling sick and anxious and crazy the day that it arrived. And I'm sitting there unpacking it and building it and fucking cleaning everything just out of my fucking mind. So happy with it. Alright, well, let's carry on watching the video. Hi Will, thanks for the 39 month. Nah, friend. Hang on, what was you saying? Let me see what Curio said. I'm posting a link to the template for a fantasy house in Discord if that is of interest. Nerdforge has an elaborate one and a video of her building it with mats for $10 and it took her 7 days. Okay. I thought it was, alright. Yeah, I mean, I've seen all of those templates as well.
After calling all of my timber placement done, I really did not like how square all the pieces looked, and I needed to do something to make them look more realistic.
Oh, also, JJ is saying you can get knockoff stylus for iPad. That's great. If anyone has Procreate on something that isn't an Apple iPad, but is much cheaper option, let me know, because I've sort of looked into it, but it seems like it's just not possible, but I don't know. Kaio, thanks for the 55.
And to look like they weren't projecting so much from the stucco. This is the other problem I had alluded to earlier with texturing the foam core to look like stucco. While that rolling pin flattening had helped, I still didn't like how proud these timbers were sitting. So I decided to try chamfering all the edges using an X-Acto. This was tedious work, but oh my god, it looked so good. It made the timbers look far more interesting and realistic, giving them a hand-hewn log look, and it also gave the illusion of them being thinner than they actually
when you think
were.
about what he's doing there, it does look.
The difficult thing was adding
like
wood grain to the fresh cuts.
Like
in
that.
some spots, I was able to use my wire brush, but in others, I could not. I didn't want to get
I assume that
lines
the
on my
paint is the other thing
areas.
that's annoying, because
Trying to find a
I have this fucking box of pens. I was like, Brad, please can we watch the video? No, this is the stream. I have this box of pens. Now, I bought a bunch of cheap Copic markers because I didn't want to spend lots on Copic markers and then find out that they're not what I want them to be. I now kind of wish I'd spent a little bit more money on them. But I got this pack of Valteng 80 pieces fucking Copic markers. Now, Copic markers is exactly what I wanted. I love them. They're not very good. They don't blend very well. They're not amazing. A couple of them were already dried out. But look how many colors are in there. There's some good colors. Lots of different variations of different, like lots of different greens and lots of different pinks and stuff like that. And I'm looking at these basic fucking acrylic paints. And I know you can mix paints together to make different colors. That's like the point. But I'm thinking, man, the paints. I know the way that I like to color things in, and I know the way that I like to have the exact color that I see in my mind's eye presented and represented. So I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna spend so much money on paints, and I don't really know how much like good paints are and stuff, especially when it comes to the minis. You want like the right paints for the minis. You see people with those banks and banks of paints, right?
I found this little wire tool that worked perfectly. Again, this is not a fancy or expensive tool. It was one of about 20 tools that came together in a $5
yeah, look at that. That
sculpting
looks
set.
legit as fuck.
And now I
that
finally
really
have a
look
use
like
for
a wood
it.
beam, doesn't it? That one looks amazing.
There were a couple of spots on the build where I had some unsightly gaps where the timbers didn't fully cover the corners. This was an easy fix using some joint compound. Really, any filler that you can smooth with water and a brush would work just fine. So, final thoughts? Well, I think this project was a huge success. In one day, or about 8 hours, I created this really great looking foam house, not counting paint, that honestly looks as good as the ones I've made with better tools and materials. In fact, what I did here with the carving of the edges of the timbers actually makes this house look a bit better than the ones I previously built on the channel.
Lele, get out of here. Scram.
That's the great thing about building things with limitations.
No, don't let her in. Don't let her in. How's she getting in here every day? Like a cat. that
Discover
sneaks
lots
in.
of cool new techniques. The next day I came back and painted the thing, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So in case the message
I feel like the minis will need good paint, and this shit won't need good paint.
wasn't clear, you can make this sort of stuff with limited tools and supplies, but more advanced tools do help speed things up. If you want to pick up any tools, be it simple or advanced, you can do so in a way that really helps out me and this channel. If you use the Amazon links in my essential equipment page on blackmagiccraft.ca, you will get the items that I use and recommend at no extra cost to you, and the channel will earn a small commission to help fund future videos like this one. If the videos I make have helped you,
I kind of
consider
wanted to watch him
supporting the
paint
channel
this,
via
but he just
Patreon.
did it
It's
magically.
through that support that
I mean, it looks
I'm
good.
able to do
I reckon
this
I could make
and
that.
help
And that's
so
how big the
many
mini
people
is.
get
Though.
into this hobby and do my part to make this
Minis really are. How, basic miniature painting techniques. Who's the mini painting guy? That fucking Norwegian dude. This one.
The 5 best brush techniques to get started with in miniature painting.
The loudest editing of all time.
Hey everyone, you're watching Squid More Miniatures. I'm Emil. And believe me, there are tons and tons of videos out there on what brush techniques there are, which brush techniques to use, which one is the
This
best,
is something I
and
know
how to use
nothing
them.
about at all. The mini painting
But
thing.
I wanted to focus it
I
down.
painted one set of Space Marines when I was 15. And I painted them black and white. So all I did was prime them and then paint some white on them. And that was it.
Down to the 5 techniques that I wish that I had in my toolbox when I
Mod
got
Podge
started.
was on my
and I
list,
took this
yeah.
journey myself about 3 years ago, and it's still fresh to me what techniques that I found was a bit overkill when I got started and which ones I found was very helpful when I got started. So I made it simple, 5 techniques that I think you should learn when
He's
you're
talking
just
about
getting
brush
started,
techniques,
and that you
though.
should try to master before maybe jumping into the more advanced ones. And before we get started,
I'm
there's
watching
2
anyway.
things that I assume that you've already done. Number 1, you already primed your miniature. And number 2, you're using a wet palette. And if you don't know what a wet palette is, I did a video entirely on this topic. It's one of my best videos. And if you haven't checked that one out, I put it up here in the show notes. So go check that one out after you watch this video. And you might learn tons of great tricks and techniques for your miniature painting. But with that said, let's jump in. Number 1, base coating. Putting on a proper base coat is the foundation for your whole miniature painting process. And deciding to not put on a proper base coat is pretty much like building a house without a foundation. It might look decent, it might look good, but if you want to make it properly and make sure that you have smooth transitions and great coverage, the base coat is crucial. When putting on base coats, I like to go fast. It's definitely not my favorite part of the painting process, so I often use a bigger brush, a lot bigger than the detail brushes that I use when I start painting the highlights. You can use a big round one, nylon brush that's cheap and huge that you got from Wish or Amazon. Anything that just gets the paints on there and get it on there fast. If you're like me, you're using a wet palette, the paints will be a little bit thinned down, so sometimes you might have to go 2 layers with certain colors to make
I
sure
just
you
finished
get the full
painting an
coverage.
Angron.
It's definitely
What's
worth
that?
getting a good layer on there if you
Oh,
want
that
to
is.
have a foundation that lasts you throughout the painting process that you don't have to go back to and add to later.
That already looks good enough to me. Obviously it doesn't. But if you absolutely needed, that probably took him, what, 20 minutes? If you just needed it for a D&D game that night, that'd suffice, wouldn't it?
Number 2, layering. Layering is probably the most common way of using your brush and adding highlights to your miniature. For me, it's about 90% of my painting process, and it's the thing that I enjoy the most. And what is layering? Well, it's pretty much just common painting. It means that you're adding one layer on top of an existing one with paint and letting that dry before you add another one. But using layering in the right way can give you super smooth transition and make your miniature look amazing without it taking a lot of time. So how do we get these super sweet transitions? Well, I managed this because on my wet palette I like to add a few different tones. And then between these different tones, base, midtone and highlight, I blend the colors on the palette to create midtones between the tones. And then when I paint, I can add them gradually. So if we start with the base tone on the miniature, I then add the midtone between my base and midtone, and then I add...
You need like a fucking... I feel like I'd need a magnifying glass or something for some parts of this. I don't think my eyes are good enough. I'm short-sighted. So I can see stuff without my glasses better. I would actually have to take my glasses off for this, I think. That's closer. I can see pretty well close, but not far that well. I actually kind of don't need these. I streamed for like an hour the other day without my glasses and realised how much I don't need them. Wear them all the time and look like shit all the time, and I don't need to. But I just prefer to have... I don't know, I'm a perfectionist. Like, yeah, I can read the fucking words on the screen, but I can read them slightly better if I just leave these on. So I'm just like, why wouldn't I do that? But like the I feel like that even with the decent vision that I have when it comes to things that are close to my face, I still just feel like that my vision is not good enough.
A clean midtone.
Can you hear this fucking chair creaking all the time? I need to WD-40 it. I keep
Then a
forgetting.
mix
I'm
between
right.
my midtone and highlight, and then finally just add a clean highlight.
W.
And adding these
D,
different steps when I
40.
highlight gives me super smooth transitions.
I'm gonna spray the
makes
fuck
stuff
out of the
look
bottom of the
amazing,
chair and hope it doesn't
and
break
you
it.
don't need an airbrush to get these really nice highlights.
It's not gonna break it, right? The pneumatic thing on the bottom of this chair is not gonna suddenly fucking break and launch up my asshole if I put a bunch of WD-40 on the bottom of this chair.
Of course, there's a lot to placement of highlights to make these things look great, but it's a good start to at least practice layering, because that's the technique you're going to use the most, and it's the thing that's going to speed up your painting process if you learn. Number 3, wet blending, or as it's called in some scenes, wet on wet. It's a technique you can use when you want to have a smooth transition between two different tones or colors, starting on one end and ending on another one. It's called wet blending because you blend the different colors on the miniature before they dry. The most common paints that we use on miniatures is acrylics, and these paints dry very fast, meaning that if you use this technique, you need to be very fast, relentless, and fearless. I like to load up a lot of paint on my wet palette so I can work fast between the different paints without hesitation. You might have to go back and forth between the colors that you have to get the effect that you're looking for, but be brave, go a bit nuts with this. For this flaming sword, for example, I'm going from red to orange and doing it fast. Since orange have a little bit of a low pigment density, I sometimes have to go back twice to make sure I get a full coverage. But with other colors such as green or blue, you should be fine just doing one layer. And when dry, as you can see, it looks pretty damn sweet. But before we continue with this list, let me talk about this week's sponsor, Titancraft.
Don't you dare mention Titancraft to me, you son of a bitch.
Number 4, dry brushing. A lot of these names are really self-explanatory.
WD-40 isn't a lubricant, it's a solvent, dude. I spray WD-40 over anything that creaks.
Dry brushing is a great technique. A lot of people discard it as a simple technique for beginners, but it can be used in so many versatile ways. One of my friends, Byron, over at Artis Opus, have done amazing paint jobs only using a dry brush. And it's really a great technique if you want to add highlights quickly and the
dry brushing is what I've heard everybody
in a more general shape. There are many different schools and ways of dry brushing, but the way that I like to do it is use these brushes specifically made for dry brushing, or with cheaper makeup brushes. You can also do it with old regular paint brushes that you use for miniatures, but once you start dry brushing a miniature with a brush, the brush pretty much gets ruined for details because the hair starts pointing in all kinds of different directions. So my recommendation is to use a brush that's already destroyed or one that's specifically made for makeup or dry brushing. Load up the paint you want to have in your brush and make sure to wick off all of the excess paint on a piece of paper, a piece of wood, or whatever you have that can remove the paint from your brush. And once the brush is pretty much dry, then you can start brushing on your miniature wherever you want the raised edges
This is the
to be
part that
highlighted
I
or
like.
darkened depending on
right.
which color you have
This
in
is
your
the
brush.
part that appeals
The good
to
thing
me
about dry
as well.
brushing is they leave all the recesses, the nooks and crannies, all of these areas that are folded inwards without paint, and all the ones that are raised will be hit by your brush. One thing to note when dry brushing though, make sure that the brush is really dry before painting. If you don't, you're going to get speckles and weird spots of areas where you get these big blotches of paint, so it needs to be really dry. And also with some dry brushes and some ways of dry brushing some paints, you'll get this really sort of dry speckly texture from dry brushing. So play around a bit before you start dry brushing that super expensive model that you just picked up. Make sure that you know how your brush works and how it feels with that specific paint, so you don't ruin a really nice model with dry brushing in a way that you don't know exactly how it works. But sometimes these textures actually adds to the miniature, so it doesn't have to be a negative thing that you get these super fine speckly textures.
This bit seems terrifying to me.
Number 5, edge highlighting. Edge highlighting
My hands
is
are
a
not steady
fantastic
anymore.
technique to frame different parts of your miniature. But use it wisely, because if you overdo it, you're going to have a super cartoony effect on your miniature. And that doesn't have to be negative, but if that's not the look you're going for, be a little bit more selective on where you put it. When wanting to edge highlight something, it can really make parts of miniatures pop quite a bit. And when edge highlighting, you're not using the tip of your brush like you do when you, for example, do layering or wet blending. You're actually using the side of your brush against the edge of the miniature. So load up your brush full with paint and then wick off any excess that you have in the brush, and then use the edge of your brush on the edge of your miniature, and you're gonna get a super smooth, super fine line. And this technique might seem super simple. Again, it's quite easy to get into, but to master it, it might take quite a lot of practice. So don't be discouraged if it's not perfect from the get-go. Keep at it,
What happens
practice
if you
more
fuck
and
it
more,
up?
and you'll get
If
better
he
and
fucks
better.
that up there, what do? You just have to go in and repaint that all from the scratch. Go back down to the layering phase and do it all again. Then get the dry brush. That's just a nightmare.
And this technique is perfect for using when painting armor, for example, on miniatures, when painting super sharp edges on Space Marines, or when you're doing Dungeons and Dragons miniatures. Maybe it's more common in weapons, for example, if you want to edge highlight on axe or a sword or something like that.
As much as I
So there
love
you go.
I love Warhammer minis and the way they look, I've got no reason to ever paint any of them other than potentially for fun. And they're just going to take up room. So everything I paint will be a D&D mini, because eventually I will be playing D&D. I just know I'm going to be an old man playing D&D in the retirement home, and all of this will eventually be useful.
It's a quick rundown of my favorite techniques, the way that I use brushes and paints to make my miniatures look great, using only these sort of basic techniques, not void blending, feathering, and super difficult glazes in thousands of layers. So be brave, give them a try, and maybe in a video in the future we can cover the more advanced ones to make you step up your painting game. to the
Retirement
next
home.
level.
Oh, do they cost money? I just assume you get put in one if you don't. Well, I don't know. I'm probably just going to die on the street.
So guys, if you like this video, make
That
sure
looked
to
pretty cool, huh?
smash
Did a great job there. I think, really, well, what's going to happen is my mum's going to die and I'm going to claim that house immediately. My sister's going to go, well, I technically own half of it. And I'm going to go, yeah, great, you've already got your own. Fucking look at your... Oh, did you fucking live in a house with your husband? You with your fucking husband, you scum. The fuck away from me, it's my house. I'm claiming my mum's house immediately. I'm going to war over it. I will fucking annex that house. Just pay her rent. I'll pay my sister rent. That's what I'll do. Because I'm never going to be able to afford my own place, apparently. It is unbelievable how fucked I am, and I don't want to think about it. Toodle, do you want to get married so we can live in a retirement home one day? Nothing else. You don't even have to look at me or talk to me. I did find that Toodle's probably already married and I'm just in here every day. She's like, I got married like 3 weeks ago. I've been in a relationship for 4 years. I've started a weekly game for my daughters and their brother. Well, showing off you've got a family. Oh, great. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that does sound great though. The idea of like playing D&D with your kids. Not me playing D&D with your kids. That'd be weird. God damn it. What the fuck have you sent me, Wax Steven? Oh, magnifying glass is cool. Yeah, yeah. When Toodle disappeared, she got married in Vegas and then divorced just before her return. That'd be hilarious if she did do that. I got no idea what Toodle's up to most of the time. I do want to invite her to play Oracle's Rest with us eventually, but there's no space. She's on the... She doesn't even know it. She's on the waiting list. I already asked everyone. We should invite Toodle to play Oracle's Rest with us. I think she would enjoy that. And everyone said, yeah, that'd be a great idea. Except for Orcish, who was like, I really, really don't like her and don't want her around. It's weird. But the byproduct of that is that slowly but surely I will actually find out what Toodle's real life is like. No idea. I don't know what she does for work. I don't know what she does in her spare time. No idea if she's married. She could have kids. Nothing. I just know she's a good role player. By the way, only Apple has Procreate. Yeah, I thought so. That's what I looked into. I wondered if there was some way to like hack a different thing. It's so annoying, man. I really think I would love Procreate. I think I could just sit on it all day, and all night, just doodling and drawing things. I love the idea of it. It's expensive, man. Same for painting minis. All of these old man hobbies that I want to get into are expensive. Adobe Fresco. What is squeaking? Downstairs neighbor hates me right now. What do I need to buy? Just spray the fuck out of the bottom of this with. I fixed it. No, I didn't. There it is. You hear that? Silicone lubricant spray. For Windows. Rocket TT Super Tube Multi-Loose Super Lubricant. Yeah? Would that work? WD-40 White Lithium Grease Spray. Genolite. Silicone Lubricant. Silicone Lubricant. This one's only a $5, so I'll buy that one. Protects metal, prevents around. I mean, is this silicone lubricant or not? What are you? I'm petrified of these chairs because I saw that one explode and the pneumatic thing shot straight upwards through the chair and fucking ruptured that guy's asshole. I'm just petrified of it just splitting through my ball bag. If you're not afraid of absolutely everything in the room around you right now, why not? Oh, WD-40 silicone lubricant. Is that the one you're on about? Specialist. For grease, plastic and metal. Fine, I'll buy another fucking thing for a $5 that I would only need once. Gods be damned. I don't have this kind of money. Oh, this is what you've sent me. No, I want to buy as well some jeans. Need some new jeans. I've got one pair of jeans at the moment. Some new jeans. I've been playing the old PUBG. New jeans. I can easily defeat a box of cereal. That's why. What? Why did she write that? Which iPad do you have, Braid? It doesn't support Procreate, I don't think. It's like a shitty little basic bitch iPad. Brain rot. Yep.
A huge colony of bees was living under this backyard playground equipment, and I was called to remove them. The bees had been living here for a long time, and the colony looked very active. The bees were using these holes in the rotted out floor of the equipment as the entrance to their hive, and so that's exactly where I decided to set up the new hive to move them into. So I gave the bees some smoke, and I started to make a plan to access the hive. I noticed that some of the boards were sticking up just ever so slightly higher than the rest, and they looked pretty loose. So I grabbed one, and to my surprise, it lifted right up. I wasn't really expecting it to come up so easily, so I took a moment to figure out my next step. I had spent some time beforehand observing the colony's behavior, and I didn't think that they would be defensive, but these bees were even calmer than I expected. So I took the lid off the new hive, then I gave the bees some smoke. I thought the smoke would make them go back to their original hive, but many of the bees went to the new hive instead.
The crazy thing is, she's just fucking in there, dude. Look. There's nothing. No hope in hell I would ever sit there like that. What the fuck?
And while it looked like the bees were starting to go into the new hive, and some of them were, a lot of them were just going in to investigate, and they were turning around and going right back out. I needed to get some brood, some bees, or better yet the queen into the new hive before the colony would start to move in on their own. So I smoked the bees on the next board, and it also came up very easily. But this time I had the new hive ready to go and I had a plan. So I took the board and I rested it on the side of the new hive. Then I gave it a few gentle taps and the bees fell right in. Then I set the board aside and I couldn't wait to uncover the rest of the hive. So I carefully lifted up the next board, and this one had even more bees on it. And because I wanted to get as many bees as I could into the new hive as quickly as possible, again I just shook
I've never
these
seen
bees
a
off the
beehive like
board
this in
and
real
into
life.
the new hive.
I don't think.
Then I scraped a large piece of comb off the board and into the new hive, and I set the board aside. I had removed enough of the boards by now that I could almost see the entire hive.
Imagine we find out this is
It was
Toodlehausen.
absolutely
We find out eventually.
beautiful, and the colony was very busy, so I gave the
We find
bees
out
some
what she's been up
smoke,
to.
and I was excited to get to work. I smoked the hive where I was going to start working first, just to move the bees off the comb. Then I pulled up the first piece of comb, and it was full of baby bees, which was a good sign of a healthy colony. The bees were also very docile, and they were not trying to sting me at all. So I put the comb into a frame, and I put everything into the new hive. Each piece of comb seemed bigger than the last, and they were all full of baby bees and a lot of pollen. So I put each piece into a wooden frame, and I secured it with rubber bands, and I put everything into the new hive. Then I just kept working my way through the hive and pulling up comb after comb. Each piece had
An
a
insane
unique
job,
and
innit?
beautiful brood pattern on it, and it looked like this colony had a very healthy queen. So with every piece of comb
How do you
I
get
pulled
this
up,
job,
I
bro?
was looking for the queen. If I didn't see her, I would cut the comb into pieces so that it would fit into the frames of the new hive. Then I would put everything I took out of the original hive right into the new hive for the bees. These pieces of comb held pollen, nectar, and baby bees, and giving everything back to the bees gives them the best chance for survival. And you can see that the new hive was already becoming quite popular with the bees, but they weren't really rushing to get in yet, so I didn't think that the queen had snuck in there without me noticing. So I just kept pulling up piece after piece of comb and searching for the queen.
It's weird how
And this
the
colony of bees
every
was
one of
so
the-
large
they're
that I
modular.
had to add another box
beehives
to
are
the new
modular,
hive.
naturally
Then I
formed.
just
She
kept
can just
removing
pull them
the
out. Look,
comb from the original hive. The
Like it's
pieces were
just a
getting
two
larger
before.
and larger, and
Cut.
this one had a really beautiful brood pattern on it that looked like a bullseye, which was a great sign of a strong queen. And because these pieces were so large, I often had to cut through the comb to make it to fit into the frames of the new hive. I always hate causing any damage to what the bees have built, and I always try to cut as little as possible. But I know that the bees will repair everything in no time and be better off in the end, so I just kept working as carefully as possible to put all the pieces of comb into the frames. Then I secured everything together with rubber bands, and I put it all into the new hive for the bees. I was over halfway done removing the hive at this point, but I had still not yet found the queen, so I just kept removing these incredible pieces of comb and searching for her. I wanted to find this queen not only because that's the key to any successful bee removal, but also because this hive was full of so much brood. That meant that the queen was probably very strong and healthy. And I wanted this queen's genetics to be able to survive, and I was looking forward to caring for this great colony of bees as long as they
It's
needed
enormous.
me. I had been working for about an hour by this point,
That's
and I
crazy.
was nearly at the end of the hive. As I pulled out the last pieces of comb,
Wonder how
I
much she
didn't see the
charges for this.
queen, but I felt confident that she was not yet in the new hive because the bees weren't rushing to get in there. Now that I was done removing the comb, I could focus on getting the bees into the new hive and finding the queen. But since so many bees were already gravitating towards the new hive, I wanted to give them some time to see if they would move in naturally. So I started to clean up all of the pieces of comb that I left behind when I first opened the hive. I scraped these pieces onto the new hive, but then I put them into a bucket of other small pieces that would be offered to all of my bees at home. Then I gave the bees some smoke to encourage them to move out of the playground equipment and into the new hive. I was also hoping that the smoke would cause the bees to move around and give me clues to where the queen was. So I took a long break now to focus on searching for the queen. I knew that if I searched long enough, I would find her, since there weren't that many places to hide anymore. And all of a sudden, I saw her crawling on the boards of the playground equipment. She was a large and gorgeous queen, and her markings were really striking. I was so relieved to find her, so I put her in a clip and I put her in the new hive. Then it was time to get the bees into the new hive, so I started scooping them up with my hands.
It's too many.
These bees were not trying to sting me at all, and I wanted to get as many bees as I could into the new hive as gently but as quickly as possible, so that the majority of the colony would guide the rest of the bees out of the playground equipment and into the new hive. And after a few handfuls of bees, that's exactly what happened, and all of the bees started rushing to get into the new hive to be with their queen. So I gave the bees some smoke to help guide them in the right direction. Then I just waited and watched as the entire colony settled into the new hive. After about 15 minutes or so, most of the colony was in the new hive and there was no longer a rush of bees trying to get inside. So I waited a while longer, but the sun was setting quickly, so I put the lid on the new hive. Then I smoked the original hive one last time, and I made a plan to get the bees into my truck. I slowly lifted the hive the best I could, and it was quite heavy, but I was able to get the hive safely into my cart.
A little cart.
Then I wheeled the hive in the cart through the backyard and to my truck. Then I loaded the bees into my truck, and I took them home, and it was another great day of saving the bees.
Oh, dude, I love her so much. It's unreal. She's insane. The most insane person. But God, this is the most wife material to me. I don't know if it says anything about me or what, but where do I find one? This bee removal was full of drama, this one says. What does that mean? How can you... I can't imagine there being any drama with this woman. She walks into beehives naked, just scoops them up. That's the most relaxed, the chillest motherfucker on the planet right there, dude. You could put a fucking gun to the fucking... right up to the... between her eyes. Her heart rate wouldn't even raise one beat.
This stack of theater equipment, and I was called to remove them. The homeowner was a local drama teacher, and the bees moved into these pieces of stage being stored in the backyard. You can see how the bees were using this rotted out hole as the entrance to their hive. And after the stage
it
pieces
was full
were
of drama,
I got
it's
my
drama
first
equipment.
good look at the hive, and it was just beautiful. I could tell from all the fresh comb that it didn't look like the bees had been here for too long, but they were very active. And while there were a lot of bees flying around, they were not aggressive or trying to sting me at all. So I set the new hive as close to the stage as possible.
She shows up in a little fucking skinny jeans, a little denim fucking thing, and a cap with her hair tied to one side and a perfect nose. Fuck you, dude.
I thought this would help the bees get
Nothing worse than people that wear too much. You know? I don't like... You know, these guys that have all the... They're decked out walking around like Austin Butler. Or these girls with like... They put so much effort into their outfit, dude. Chuck on a fucking hoodie. It's so much hotter. Maybe I'm fucked up. Maybe I have low standards. But just pure casual. You can fucking scrub up if you want. You can scrub up from time to time. You're going to a wedding. You're going to fucking do some bullshit on stage. All good. But, dude... Put on this. Look at her. Fucking docs.
Do it a bit more easily when they were ready.
It's so much more attractive to me. I don't know why.
But first, I would have to get most of the comb and the colony and hopefully the queen into the new hive. So
just a little objectification in the afternoon. What? I didn't fuck up that word. Fuck you.
Got to work. I knew that I would have to take extra care when working with this hive. The beeswax comb was so soft and delicate, and I wanted to keep it all as intact as possible. So I did my best to hold the comb together as I removed the first piece of the hive. This piece had some food on it, so I took a moment to look for the queen, but I didn't see her. So I put this piece into a frame of the new hive using rubber bands. Then I used my smoker to clear the bees from the next piece of comb that I needed to remove. This piece was just as soft and flimsy as the first, and it broke in half as I grabbed it. But the bees could still use everything inside of it, and they would even put it back together. So I carefully put it into the new hive, and I did the same thing with the rest of this piece.
What a weird job, man. Look at it.
Then I paused
Just
for
to
a
keep-
moment to just observe
What
the
does she do
bees.
with them? Where does she take these things? What does Texas Bee Works do with the bees after? They have bee sanctuaries. She must just have a field, huh? Bee sanctuary, Texas Bee Works. Texas Bee Works. Let's see how much it costs. There she is. It's free. It doesn't cost any. It's free. How do they make money? Fuck.
And to see if I could find the queen. And that's when I
She
saw
doesn't sell
one
the
of my
honey.
all-time favorite bee behaviors to see.
It literally says on the thing she doesn't sell the honey because that's their food for the winter and she doesn't like doing it. The perfect woman. It's the bees' food for winter and I don't like selling that for profit and I will come and collect all the bees for free. An angel. An actual angel of a human.
Inside the hive.
I mean, she probably makes bank now off of like these videos and stuff, but still, before that.
The bee in the center of all the other bees, who is shaking her abdomen and walking around in circles, is actually doing that to communicate with the other bees. She is telling them the distance and direction.
She's married to an oil baron, a Texan oil baron.
To fly to find the best flowers for food. And if you think
Say
it
it
looks
ain't
like
so.
she is dancing, you're thinking like a beekeeper. Because beekeepers lovingly call this the waggle dance. And it looked like these dancing
She was so happy to say that.
bees were doing their job quite well
She was
because this
getting
hive
so
had a
excited
wonderful
to
supply
get to the
of
point of saying
pollen.
the waggle
And
dance.
while I could have sat there and just watched the bees all day, it was time to get back to work. This next piece of comb
Just loves
was full
bees,
of worker
huh?
brood, pollen, and
Hyperfixation.
nectar, and it was an essential part of the hive. So I secured it into a frame and I put it into the new hive as carefully as possible. Then I used my smoker to gently clear the bees from the next piece of comb, and you can see how the bees scurried away from the smoke just as you or I would. This next piece of comb was full of even more brood and food than the last, and it had everything a healthy colony needed this time of year. All of the cells with cappings on them were full of worker brood, and that was almost a sure sign of a queen. You can see the capped brood on the bottom and some bright, beautiful pollen being stored above it, which is what the nurse bees use to feed the baby bees. So I slowly slid this piece of comb into a frame alongside the others, and I put everything into the new hive. And since I had not yet seen the queen, I gave the bees some more smoke to clear them off the comb.
Does
so
it
I
matter
could
what
look
bit
for
she
her.
puts in where?
And that's when,
Probably
all of a
not.
sudden, I saw the queen. At first, she was mostly covered up by the other bees, but then she crawled her way through and I could see her entire body. And that's when I saw it. This queen bee was laying an egg. That's not a stinger, you see, that's an actual bee egg, and she was in the middle of laying it. So I grabbed my queen clip and I wanted to get her in the new hive right away. A queen clip is a beekeeping tool designed to hold a queen inside, but let the other bees, who are smaller, easily enter and exit to care for her. But as soon as I put this queen in the clip, she crawled right out. So after she crawled into my hand, I put her in the clip again. But this time, I would make sure it would hold her safely inside. So I grabbed a rubber band and I started to wrap it around the opening of the clip where she was escaping from. I usually do this in most of my removals, just for added insurance, which is something I learned from having one too many queens escape from the clip and swarm on me. And I took some extra time and care to make sure this queen wasn't going anywhere. So after I felt like she was safe, I put her in the new hive and I got back to work. I still had a few more pieces of comb and a lot of bees
The
to
husband is in real estate and investing. Is that true? Keeper. Tell me it's a lie. I will kill myself. Is that what you want? Why would you want that? Why would you try and kill me?
into the new hive. And while I was working, I was thinking of the queen and hoping she wouldn't find her way out of the clip. The bees can chew through the
Brood
rubber
cells are in the
bands,
center and the
but
food is
only
made
if
on
they
the
really
sides.
want to, and it could take them days. Even if the queen did escape from the clip again, though,
I know,
the
Keeper.
bees would
I mean,
let
look,
me know,
I know.
because all of the bees already in the hive would start to follow the queen out. A honeybee colony is
Every one who is worth getting married to is already married, happily. Because they're worth getting married to. So they're already married, right? It's horrendous out here. I honestly don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. I have to be alone forever. Or settle for a fucking creature. Like Ratch.
a superorganism, which means that it's a collective of individual bees acting in synergy for the benefit of the community. And that's what they were doing as we all worked together to get them into the new hive. As I speed this up, you can see the bees on the stage behind me all move together in a group into the new hive. And that's because their queen was in there, and they were starting to recognize this as their new home. So they were working together to make sure that every bee in the colony knew where to go and how to get there. But
These
some
bees suck, huh, compared to the last one. The last bees were like... perfect builders. They're these perfect fucking squares that fit into this exactly. These ones are creating these little fucking shoddy... The last bees were me, and these bees are orcish.
the bees still needed a bit of encouragement. So I used my smoker to create a cloud of smoke around the bees to herd them into the new hive. Then I just waited and watched as the bees followed their colony into their new home. There were plenty of bees at the entrance of the hive who were fanning pheromones from a special gland in their abdomen to let the other bees know where to go.
That's what I
And there
do.
were
I
a
do
lo-
that every day. Out my window. To try and summon Toodle to me. That's why I sit in my window naked. For me, Toodle, how are you?
Lot of bees following them into the new hive. Over time, as more and more bees started to pick up on those scents, more and more
What we
bees
do on our
would go
walk.
into the new hive to be with their queen. But there was a group of bees that didn't seem to want to go in, so I scooped them up with my hands. To me, scooping bees seems like the most gentle way to get bees from one.
No. It's the most... Say it with me, Texas Bee Works. Psychotic way.
one place to another. So after I scooped as many bees as I could, I scraped the last bit of comb off the stage and put it into the new hive. I also used this time to check on the queen. I could see that she was still inside of the clip and that a bunch of other bees had joined her to take care of her, which was a great sign. Since it looked like she wasn't going anywhere, I put her into the new hive. Then I just
Presumably she has to get her out of that clip. Like she goes to where the new location and then opens the clip and lets her out. And just hopes she doesn't fuck off.
waited and watched for more bees to move into the new hive. And after I waited long enough, most of the colony was in the new hive with their queen. So I began to put the cover on the hive, but the entrance would still remain completely open so that any straggler bees could get in, and so the bees would have plenty of ventilation for the drive home. And since the hive is just pieces stacked on top of one another and they're not attached in any way, I used a bungee cord to hold everything together. Once I felt like everything was secure, it was time for me and the bees to go home. So I picked up the hive, I loaded it into my truck, and it was another great day of saving the bees.
Love. Pure. Full-blown. Teenage. Maximum level. Love. The most loneliest day of my life. How much is this? £750 for a refurbished iPad Air. I can't remember which one I need though. Oh, £500. I'll take a refurbish. Yeah, I looked into it a little bit. But I still don't have the fucking power. Oh, you know what I need to do? I accidentally didn't export the Table Story show last night. I was so tired. I had to set it going this morning. It wasn't processed on YouTube. Aha! It's done. Great. Oh, Whack did it. Did you do this? Whack? Did Whack Steven do this? Said with the same way of when you see Sephiroth killed the Midgard Golem. Did Sephiroth do this? Did Whack Steven do this? I'm guessing Whack Steven did this. What a hero. What a hero. Remember, if you're a member at merch.tablestory.tv, you get access to the green room, and you get all these cool videos, including the Cura Green Room. And after every episode of Cura and Gatewalkers, Whack puts thumbnails on these and I don't. After every episode of Table Story shows, we record these little 10-minuters. Here are the ones for Blade Runner. So when you watch a show, and these go up like immediately, basically. They go up about half an hour after the episode because it takes a moment to process them. We have to record, so the episode ends, and then as soon as the episode ends, I hit record, and we record one of these Green Room episodes that you can watch, and we get the cast's immediate reaction to what has just transpired in the episode. So you get that, and it comes up straight after the episode. So if you want to head on over to merch.tablestory.tv, these are really cool. And you'll get, if you're interested in Cura and you're following the Cura lore and you want some little insider stuff just behind the characters, some motivations, stuff that, you know, DM stuff, like how I prepped some of the episode. I don't go into a huge amount of detail because I just assume it's very boring for the other cast members, but such a good part of D&D, the Aftershock. I think that they are really good. Really, I think they're really interesting to watch. If you're really into it. Obviously we have them for Gatewalkers as well, and you know, future shows. We don't have them for Ungodly because Ungodly's pretty intense. It's a pretty hardcore couple of hours for the way that the show is produced, and I don't think it really needs it either. It's only a mini series, but yeah, if you're curious, we do have good content over there. Obviously you get access to a few other things as well, but I think some people aren't quite aware. You can also watch the Session Zeros as well for Cura, and other shit if you want. I don't want to, or I don't then. I'm just letting you know. I feel like we don't get an option to show people stuff like that too much. Alright? Shut up. What the hell are wasps? Do they have hives? Wasps? Or do they just exist like little bastards flying around being mean? Bastards. They have nests. Kill them. Kill them all. Go on and get them. Get every single goddamn one of them. Does anyone do no non-sleep deep rest? Yoga Nidra? I highly recommend these two videos here. Huberman Labs clips, 10-minute non-sleep deep rest to restore mental health and physical energy. Dr. Andrew Huberman. This shit
Non-sleep deep
has
rest
saved
protocol.
my ass.
Non-sleep deep rest is a powerful tool that can allow you to control the relaxation state of your nervous system.
Chuck this on when you
and
need to
your
calm
overall
down.
state of mind.
When you need to calm down, when you need to relax, when you need to maybe fall asleep.
It can restore mental and
Get this
physical
video.
vigor,
I actually downloaded it, ripped it into an MP3, and now it's on my phone.
and it can be done any time of day or night. It's very simple to do. You'll want to do this protocol seated or lying down. So if you're not already seated or lying,
I love they went to the effort to record this. The irony, of course, is that
non-sleep deep
this
rest
is being
protocol,
recorded with a drone by the looks of
relaxation
it, which
state
means
of your nervous system
very calm
and your overall and it can be done
Nice.
any time of day.
and relaxing.
You'll want to do this protocol
But actually
seated
what's happening here is and he just has to stand there, dude.
if you're not already seated or lying down.
My piece of advice for you: if you have anxiety, try it. Try non-sleep deep rest. NSDR, Yoga Nidra. I'm a big fan of it. That one in particular is good because all the other Yoga Nidra stuff is like take a deep breath through your nose and breathe out through your nose. Or they'll go take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. But his version, you breathe in through the nose And you breathe out through thinly pursed lips, like you're sucking through a little straw. And you do that, and it is so much more effective. Honestly, if you just need to calm down, you have anxiety, is your heart beating too fast? Just taking a deep breath through your nose. And then breathe out very slowly. Breathe out as slowly as you can, really. Through thinly pursed lips. For as long as you can. And do that 2 or 3 times. And it will slow your heartbeat down and you'll relax. It's very effective. The other one is taking 2 sharp breaths inwards. So you take one kind of normal, and then you take a second in, and you inflate your whole lung, and then you blow that all out. And do that twice, and it removes all of the carbon dioxide from your entire body. And you feel better. Do that too many times and you'll pass out. Or you'll activate more adrenaline, so be careful with that one. You're welcome. Hey bro, does it really work? It honestly is the most effective. I have no way of calming down. You know, I don't have pills or I don't have some thing I can do. I'm just stuck in an elevator freaking out type of calming down that you can do. Huberman is a fuck up of a human being, and I love it. He has, when the reveal of Huberman having all those tattoos was so great. This chair is driving me nuts. It's all I could hear all night last night while I was trying to fucking GM.
I was getting pissed off, and I said the Republicans, they're coming in here, and they need to lube up my chair, and these fucking liberals.
Alright, I don't feel very well. I think I might go. I've installed the Elder Scrolls Online. We're going to play the Elder Scrolls Online tomorrow. What the fuck are you talking about, Braid? That's what we're doing. Sponsored. I know the streams have been short and shit over the last few days. And just non-existent. But there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm gonna go and probably watch that episode of The Acolyte, eat some food, and try to remain cool because it's getting warm. Getting warm. Thank you for making me a peasant. You're welcome. Don't know what that means. Ward is going to lose his shit. Does he play that game? I'll play it with him. I'll tell him. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll be playing Elder Scrolls for a few hours. That's it, man. I got nothing else for you. Thanks for hanging out. I know it was just sort of a fuck around stream, but I really am very, very tired today. I kind of just don't want to exist. I really don't have any brain power. I just want to sit by myself in a corner and cry, and I think I'm probably just going to do that now for a while. I need to completely disconnect. Go and hang out with Maya. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, boys. Bye.
And it was another great day of saving the bees.